climate and dives into the complicated history, beauty, oppression, and resilience of Miami's neighboring community of Overtown and the waterways of historic Virginia Key Beach. When one sees Calida's work, it brings to mind a conversation between her and Christine Y. Kim, featured in the exhibition catalog. Calida talks about how art allows us to see things in a light that is both complicated and uplifting. And last night, similar to what other catalog essayist Enuma Okora expressed, I too felt that rippling combination of joy, wonder, and soul ache when I was experiencing Calida's paintings and video installation in the galleries. It was truly touching. And I think this is the power of art and image making. And this work doesn't happen in a silo, but it happens with the support and helping hands of many. And I would be remiss if I did not make a few acknowledgments before we get started. The exhibition, Calida Rawles, Away with the Tides, has been diligently and thoughtfully organized by Maritza Lacayo, Associate Curator, with the support of Fabiana Sotillo, Curatorial Assistant. A very special thank you goes out to Deborah and Dennis Scholl for their ongoing support of this important lecture series and inspiring programs. We appreciate you. This exhibition is also presented with lead individual support from Allison and Larry Berg and supporting sponsorship from Goldman Sachs. Additional support from PAMM's International Women's Committee, Leslie and Greg Ferrero, and Rebecca and Desmond Howard is gratefully acknowledged. Tonight's conversation is also sponsored by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, led by the inspired and incredible Connie Kennard, Senior Vice President of the Multicultural Tourism and Development Department, and a champion of PAMM as well. Thank you, Connie. She does this work along with her brilliant team of colleagues and collaborators that include Petra Brennan, Graylin Swilly Woods, and Rosie Gordon-Wallace. I would also like to thank the incredible team of people working to produce our PAMM education programs like this one tonight. Big thank yous go out to Anita Bram, Associate Director of Adult and Public Programs, David Miller, Education Coordinator, and our world-class audio and visual team, Denise Faxis, Andrew Bird, and Lazaro Yanis on video and cameras. We could not do this without you. Thank you all. I'm going to pause here for a moment so I don't forget to ask if we can all squeeze in just a little bit, if it's possible. I also want to mention we do have stools if you would like to sit on a stool if you're towards the very back. I would also say please be very careful if you're sitting on a stool on the chairs, on the steps. But this is a packed house. We are excited to learn more about your work, Calida, and we showed up. It was a good thing. Okay, let's get to the meat of this program, getting closer to it, right? Even if you're vegan, it's tofu, so don't worry. All right. So now, a little bit about our panelists before we watch a short 15-minute film, and following the film, Wade in the Water, it will be, the panel will immediately follow that. So here we go. All right, Calida Rawles. Based in Los Angeles, received a Bachelor of Arts from Spelman College and a Master of Arts from New York University. Exhibitions of her work have been organized at the Delaware Contemporary in Wilmington, Lehman Maupin, New York, Various Small Fires, Los Angeles, Standard Vision, Los Angeles, and of course, the Perez Art Museum, Miami, among others. Calida considers water to be a space for Black healing. In her works, she reimagines the African-American experience beyond depictions rooted in the nation's collective imagination and written history. Merging hyperrealism, poetic abstraction, and water's cultural and historical symbolisms, Calida creates unique portraits of Black bodies submerged in and interacting with water. The relationship between Black people and water is of particular importance to Calida, as water signifies for her both physical and spiritual healing, as well as historical trauma and racism. She uses this complicated duality to envision a restorative space for the Black people featured in her work, reimagining them beyond racialized tropes. Enhancing the seductive nature of water, the works temper heavier subjects with aquatic serenity and geographic and temporal ambiguities, inviting multiple readings. Calida's works represent an expansive vision of the strength in today's turbulent times while insisting on the triumph of humanity. Kathleen Dean is a writer, producer, filmmaker, artist, and educator raised in Westchester County, New York. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in History from Columbia University and is currently an adjunct professor at Nova Southeastern University in Davie, Florida, teaching video field production. For the past 5 years, Kathleen has facilitated workshops for Nova Southeastern University's annual undergraduate film festival, hosted by the Farquhar College of Arts and Sciences, on the use of digital video camera techniques for lighting, sound, and editing. Kathleen produced the 48-hour film project, 48 HFP, in South Florida. This annual event, which takes place in over 110 cities worldwide, challenges filmmakers to create a 3 to 7 minute film in only 48 hours. In her first year, she received a producer award for having turned around the project by significantly increasing participation throughout the Tri-County area of South Florida. Kathleen is also the director of the Emmy award-winning film Wade in the Water, Drowning in Racism, which has been a personal achievement and also transformed her into an impact storyteller, using the power of film to bring about positive change. Trina Harris is a dynamic leader, passionate advocate, and successful businesswoman known for her significant contributions as the CEO of Touching Miami with Love, also known as TML, and the newly appointed president of the Overtown Business Association. Born and raised in the historic Overtown community in Miami, Florida, Trina has a profound understanding of the challenges faced by marginalized populations and leverages her deep roots to inspire change and improvement. In her leadership at TML, Trina has been instrumental in forging strong partnerships with local schools, businesses, religious sites, and community organizations. These collaborations have been pivotal in providing the youth of Miami with essential resources and opportunities to thrive. TML's comprehensive youth and family development programs under Trina's guidance offer hope and practical support, equipping individuals and families to improve their lives. Trina's involvement in the Connecting Capital and Community 3C initiative, which focuses on housing and community stability, aligns seamlessly with her efforts to provide affordable housing solutions through projects like TML Residences, an affordable housing initiative aimed at combating poverty and creating sustainable living environments. This project, expected to break ground in 2025 following zoning approvals, exemplifies her commitment to substantial long-term community investment. Trina's impact also reaches into social justice as a founding member of the Healing and Justice Center. She influences broader community development as a member of Miami Foundation's Advisory Council and takes active part in projects like the I-395 Underdeck Project, which aims to reconnect and revitalize communities. Her presidency at the Overtown Business Association drives strategic efforts to revitalize the area through initiatives like the reestablishment of a designated main street, creating a vibrant local community marketplace, and developing an Overtown Visitor Center with the backing of a structured organization that can represent the interests of local businesses. Furthermore, Trina enriches the community through her board positions with the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition, OCYC, and the Artist in Residence in the Everglades program, where she supports youth welfare and integrates art into community healing and understanding. Additionally, because that's not it, she owns Sweet 110, an apparel boutique that reflects Black urban culture, promoting cultural expression and economic activity within the community. And our moderator, artist Shire Vantablack Regan, based in South Florida, maintains an art practice that exists at the intersection of social justice and storytelling. Her work responds to urgent societal concerns and functions as a critical platform to amplify the voices of community members who are often silenced. Over the past decade, Shire has focused primarily on community advocacy and depicting social narratives without distortion in various mediums. As a St. Louis native, the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement triggered a sense of urgency in her own art practice. Her work continues to evolve, allowing for broader social accessibility and creative scale. In South Florida, Shire continues to merge her artistic practice with community-led activism, emphasizing the art of storytelling as a means of engaging with communities with radical empathy and transparency. So I must say, let's give it up for these incredible women. Okay, so as promised, we're gonna watch the short 15-minute film by Kathleen Dean, Wade in the Water, which will be immediately followed by the panel. So thank you, and please enjoy.
Check, check. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's amazing.
Hi, ladies. We locked in. We ready? Okay, so on the heels of this really beautiful film, I want to ask each of you, what is your relationship to water? How does it show up in your work? And how does it show up in the work that you do?
Okay.
Want to start?
We'll start with me. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I'm a lover of the water. I grew up in upstate New York, and the water was a part of my life every summer. My family would spend time at a beach, a pool, or a lake. So I learned to swim early. Moving to Florida as an adult, and you notice at the end, the film is dedicated to my father, who was born and raised in Hallandale Beach, Florida. As a child, we would take trips down to South Florida, and I realized that my dad didn't know how to swim. And that's because he didn't have access to the water. So it's a spiritual thing for me. Water is healing. Water is my medicine. It's my playground. It's my joy.
Ooh. My story with water is a little different. I grew up with my grandmother, and she worked on the beach, and she didn't want us, or she didn't invite us to go on the beach because those were hard moments for her. So as a child, I didn't grow up going to the beach. And to this day, I can say that I am just learning how to swim. And it's been a journey. It was a fear. It was an unknown. It wasn't a safe space. But now that I'm actively, literally just learning how to swim and had swim lessons this morning, my braids are still a little wet. But it has allowed me to gain confidence, that spirit of relaxation, that health element. And it's just a breath of fresh air in the water. So it's just been an amazing journey as of now.
You're making me miss swimming right now. I grew up, walking to like a public pool and getting in the water, probably in the kids section, and thinking I was swimming. But it wasn't until I was, maybe 10, 15 years ago that I really learned how to swim. But many of my summers I spent with my father visiting family in Maryland near the beach. And we used to just jump in the ocean, and so it was definitely a joyous moment, but my parents didn't know how to swim, so it wasn't like something that we did. And it wasn't, until it became part of my practice and looking at the water, seeing the beauty, finding the spirituality in the water, that it resonated with me to bring it into my practice. It was something that was, no matter what I was feeling or thinking about or anything troublesome on my heart before I got in the water, when I got out, it was lighter. And that concept is what I brought into the practice. I wanted to discuss difficult, divisive issues, use water as almost like an allure to see the beauty of it, but then also connect that to our history.
And okay, so as a follow-up, let me ask you, with this exhibition, Away with the Tides, can you talk to us about how this exhibition came about? Why did you decide to focus on Overtown? And what was the process like?
Okay. Wait, what was the first part of that? I heard like
What was it like?
three questions, and then it went away, and it was like, what? What'd you say? Start with.
What was it like? Let's talk about your process and how this exhibition came about.
Okay.
Let's start with the beginning.
Okay.
Okay.
So the amazing curator, Maritza, she, I think very much, she reached out wanting to work together and create something that we could bring to the Perez Museum. What was really shared with me is they wanted it to be inclusive to the community in Miami, and thinking of Miami itself. But it was very open other than that. Me, living in California, only thing I'm really at that moment thinking about is the political climate of Florida. I was like, what is happening? And what I was reading at the time was the Board of Education not allowing Black History advanced placement classes to be taught in public schools. And I kept thinking, how do Black people feel in Florida with that? That your history, they're saying your history is invaluable. That's how I interpreted it. And they weren't going to teach that. And that was like on my mind. So the first thing I wanted to do was find where are the Black people in Florida. I wanted to learn about the history. I wanted to know about the communities. And there was a lot to learn. There's a lot there. There's like Little Haiti. There's a lot that you can go into, but I kind of focused into Overtown in my research. And then looking at, you know, some of the experiences that the Overtown community went through, I, you know, went crazy and wanted to know more and more. From the, you know, the highway, you know, the Federal Aid Highway Act, where they purposefully and directly targeted Black and brown communities, put highways there. It did not matter how it was thriving. And then learning about Overtown, where there was 300 businesses at the time of when they did that highway, and it was a thriving community, and deciding to put a highway right in the center, and what that did to the community itself. That was, and I'm sure, and what I've even learned from many people from Miami, they aren't taught that in the school, and they definitely don't want to teach it in the school. And that's what seems like is happening here. And it was an opportunity to discuss a community that had a lot of love and history and bring attention. And the fact that I had an opportunity to do that with the Perez Museum here, just make a body of work about that community, I jumped on it.
Thank you. Trina, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot because we had a conversation earlier about your experience with art in Overtown. Can you talk about what that was like growing up in Overtown, and how has your experience with art shifted?
So growing up in Overtown, back then I didn't know I had the pleasure of being a neighbor to Purvis Young. I didn't know. I regret not knowing. But walking along the sidewalk as a child, seeing this man between my ages of like 5 to 12 years old, didn't know the impact that his life and his legacy and his work has led to today is amazing. Being able to see him in his craft as a child and seeing how that has transformed so many lives is just empowered me to educate young people on the power of art, because he took just anything, literally anything, and created a masterpiece. And right now, I don't want young people to take art for granted. So being able to educate them and expose them through our work at Touching Mind with Love is important for me, because I wish I would have had that knowledge of the power of art then. as a child in Overtown.
Thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to ask you about that because as we've all talked more, we've seen so many parallels between our experiences with art and the work that we do in the community. So I wanted to really highlight that parallel. And Kathleen, I want you to talk about the parallels between the work that you do in relationship to water and the parallels you see in Calida's work, because they're there.
Wow. Well, for me, this is a full circle moment. Wade in the Water was inspired by an art exhibition. In 2015, there was a situation in Palm Beach County where a mother had returned home on a hot Sunday afternoon with her daughters from church. And the little girls wanted to go swimming in the community pool. So she brought them to the pool. She said, "You have 15 minutes. When that 15 minutes was up, one little girl obeyed mom and went home. The other little girl stayed in the pool and lost, herself in the joy of the water and waded into the deep end, and not knowing how to swim, started to drown." Fortunately, this story ends with a positive, happy ending. There was a little boy watching from his front porch across the street whose parents had taught him how to swim. He jumped in the water and saved her. So I was invited to the International Swimming Hall of Fame for the ceremony. I was swimming with a club in Fort Lauderdale. They knew I was a filmmaker, and they wanted me to document this ceremony where they honored the boy for saving the girl. And while I was there, I met Bruce Wygo, who you see in the film, and he toured me. He had curated the most incredible art exhibition of the history of Africans in swimming. And he, took me around this show and blew my mind, and art is my language. It speaks to me, and it inspired me. So when I came across Calida's amazing work, I was again inspired, and my mind was blown by how beautifully she interprets the spirituality of water. I forget the second part of your question.
You hit it. You hit it. Yeah. Thank you. So, Calida, okay, first let me share what my experience was like in your exhibition last night. The photos didn't really do the work justice. And walking through the space, I really felt like people like me are going to connect to this work because they're in the work. So can you share with us maybe some significant moments in working with the residents of Overtown that stood out or remained with you?
Oh, yes. Okay. There's a lot of those.
Okay.
In 2022, yeah, I came to Miami. I stayed for like 2 weeks, and I got to meet many residents. A family member, Danny, who used to work at the Overtown Community Center, helped me meet many residents. She helped me we went through, looked at pictures, and I got to meet people there, and we decided which people I was going to paint. One thing about the experience was everybody was so welcoming. It was so beautiful, but a moment that stands out the most was when I went to pick up Miss Roll. So she's in the video work, you could see her face, but in the paintings, it's the ones of her hands, is Miss Roll. When I went to pick her up to take her to the pool or Virginia Key Beach, maybe I went to take her to Virginia Key Beach, which is the beach she used to swim at when she was a child. It was the only black beach in Miami that you could swim at the time. I went to pick her up because when we were swimming with her in the pool, we, started talking, and she mentioned that she always wanted to go back. She hadn't been back since she was a child. And I wanted to get her there and take pictures and have her there. So when I went to pick her up, there were all these gentlemen, these men outside, sitting outside of her building. And I pull up in my car, and this guy comes over to me, and he's like, what you doing here, basically, right? And I was like, I'm here to pick up Miss Roll. And so then, I told him I'm coming here to visit, and pick her up, and then Miss Roll kind of came out. I think that's how it went. And then he was asking me questions like, okay, so where are you taking her? So I'm taking her to the beach. And he was like, what you gonna feed her? I don't want no processed food. Are you gonna give her water? What? Where are you going? When are you gonna bring her back? Do you need me to go with you, Miss Roll? Do you feel safe with this woman, basically? Like, where are you going? So I was like, this is, you know what I mean? There was a love and a respect for the elders and a community that it was just beautiful. And I was just imagining how that connection and those relationships of taking care of each other is not depicted probably here in Miami in the media.
Yeah, agreed.
But it was very much, I could feel a place where people tried to take care of each other.
Yes, yes.
And that meant a lot to me. And Ms. Roll was amazing. I just want to say, and I'm going to try not to get choked up, I want to do a little prayer for Ms. Roll.
Right.
She's transitioning right now. I found that out a little while ago, a couple hours ago. But she made a major mark for me. Yes.
One time for Ms. Roll.
Yes.
So, that is a testament to the importance of immersing yourself in a community, witnessing the care within our communities, and then transmitting that care back into the work that you do. Trina, can you talk about what you think it's like, or what do you think residents are going to say knowing that there is an exhibition at this institution? It's not small potatoes, this is institution. At this institution, which is adjacent to the community, that is the story of this community, that depicts elders in the community, residents of the community. How do you think people are going to feel to see themselves here?
It makes me think of the power of storytelling and visuals throughout art. In Overtown, the sense of community and caring for one another is important. To have that history shown visually is another level. I think one of the images that you created of someone that's sitting in the audience, that sense of pride that is painted on his chest regarding Overtown, that towner for life. I'm a towner for life. You don't know. But we hold a sense of pride and community. And it's important. And it's important for folks who are genuinely in the community that our stories be captured and they're told correctly and with respect and with dignity. We have gotten over years, we often hear the stories of blight, of dysfunction, of crime. But those stories of people caring for one another, people standing up for one another, the folks that are still fighting for Overtown, that still want to be a part in Overtown, they're going to be excited to know that our community is on display for thousands. So it's a moment of excitement.
Agreed. And I witnessed those moments of excitement last night. And Kathleen, I wanted to ask you what it was like for you to walk through this exhibition for the first time.
When I came last night, I was so excited. I was immersed. I felt like I was in the water with the subjects. It was a spiritual, cooling experience. I just thought it was beautiful, and I hope everybody has walked through and enjoyed the exhibition.
Agreed. So, Calida, can you talk about, or let me ask you, has there been a shift in how you work? Because there's been a shift in materials. Has there been a shift of how you feel about these materials, how you navigate through these materials? Because we talked a little bit about you going into film,
Okay.
and then to go from a material that looks like it's moving to actual moving pictures. What was that shift like?
Well, luckily, I collaborated with an amazing documentary filmmaker, Laura Brownson, that we went through it together. You know, it was a process. But I'll say that it was really, I realized the process was very much like making paintings, you know, and I didn't think it would be in such a way. Like even when we were filming, you know, when we were on set, I'm saying set, but when I'm shooting my subjects, I usually, you know, have a camera and I'm shooting, but we also had a video crew. Laura sent an amazing video crew down while I was doing the setups for the paintings. And when I was talking with the cinematographer, one thing I was sharing with him was my paintings, like showing him the light. Like, here's the magic, here's the bright moments of where I put the lights and I want them to pop, right? And so, you know, he was going on the camera and like when I was showing the work, these are the kind of things I want to see in the video, he was able to capture that. And so we were able to like use it in a different, you know, get the video to create some of that same ethereal looks. And then even the process of after everything was shot, it was like doing the selects of the best, you know, images to use, that idea. I do that when I paint. Each of my photo shoots when I'm shooting a person, it may be 400 or 500 amount of pictures that I take in one setting, and then I go through and basically select the best ones and figure out, and then it becomes a piece of art. But it was very beautiful seeing that process through and creating something that was ethereal and at the same time had points of history with archival footage, but at the same time keeping in line with the work. You know, I want it to be resilient, show resilience, even though there's something difficult. It's not, you know, necessarily sad. It's like full of pride. And that was something like with the editor that was definitely conveyed. Like, you know, just make sure it didn't feel, I don't know, most of my paintings, I'm hoping you feel agency. And I hope you feel that, you know, as well with the video.
So can we talk about what does the future of the work that we do look like? Does it still connect to water? How are we exposing or giving young people access to water in the work that you do? Are you doing something with young people and water? Can you tell us more about what the future of your work looks like?
Well, because of Wade in the Water, I've become somewhat of an aquatic activist. I tour around with a film, and it really has changed my life. It's put me on another trajectory. So I tour with a film, and I'm connected with an organization called Diversity in Aquatics, as well as with several aquatic professionals here in the community. And, you know, we encourage people of color who have no relationship with the water to go out and get swim lessons for water safety, drowning prevention, but also for joy and wellness. And I just completed a film. I'm playing in this water space for a while. So I just completed another film called Water is Our Medicine. And it's about 5 people who use the water to heal from their trauma, anxiety, and depression. And the water is spiritual and it's healing. So I'm gonna continue to reach out and work with, you know, these beautiful people that I've embraced in the community and try to encourage more Black and brown people to learn how to swim, to access the water, and to have that relationship with the water. So I've got a million more films that I can make about historically Black beaches. And I just came back from Grenada, where I showed 2 of my films there. And there seems to be something in the air right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot to be done in this space.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yes, there is still a lot to be done in the space. And even with me in swim lessons, there's still a lot to be done. But the work will continue.
Okay.
The work will continue. But with that, it allows me to, one, see the joy of swimming and want to be able to empower other young people and adults. How many of you in the audience do not know how to swim? Is there anyone who do not know how to swim? That's a challenge call that everyone in this room needs to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
It's never too late. So for me, it's providing opportunities and access for young people to have access to free swimming lessons in our community of Overtown, and also being able to invite their parents to join them, because that is the key problem. My 16-year-old daughter doesn't know how to swim because I don't know how to swim. So I have blocked access for her. So we stop blocking access for individuals and young people, they will learn the beauty of this just great natural resource. So I'm opening up doors for access.
I know that's right.
That's awesome.
And are there ways that we can support the work that you do? Do you want to put a call out there for people to support the work that you do?
Of course. So I serve on the board of the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition, and our coalition is vowing to make sure that we provide access to swimming for young people in our community. So we have wrote petitions, we have collected resources and donations, and we also got a local pool in our community that had been closed for several years, opened back so our kids can have access. So definitely support the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition.
Do that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be in the water for a bit with my paintings. It's definitely a part of my visual language. I was kind of laughing with your question, like, do people know how to swim? And let me tell you what I've learned with that question. I ask everyone, can you swim? That is a relative question. Let me tell you, it's probably more hands that should have went up.
Right.
But I'm not judging you.
Yeah, they were
I'm
scared.
just saying, they be like, yeah, I can swim. That's what, we captured, Laura and I, in a part of the video and the editing. It was really funny because it's like, do you know how to swim? And then a few minutes later, she's like, yeah, but like, I just learned 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, and I don't put my face in the water, and I don't necessarily know how to float. Yeah, I swim, so there's a little caveats a lot of times with that question. But, but one thing through this that I want to say is I'm going to get both your numbers because I have your emails, but I have to get your numbers because we've got to talk. Because, after working with the Overtown, community and, I kept thinking, and I kept talking to my husband and my assistant Tony. I'm going to throw our name out here again. We kept talking about it. It was like, I would love to figure out a way to help get some more lifeguards or get some people and get people to swim. And I was just thinking about Miami so much. We're doing this show of the water and talking to so many people that that don't swim. And you're here in a city full of water and around water. And I think the overwhelming thought, especially people not from the Overtown in the community, they'll say like, yeah, everyone in Miami swims. Not thinking of a full community and culture here that's not often represented, that since they didn't have access to water, as you have shown and, you know, we've talked about, there's children and families and what, you know, statistically, Black children are the #1 drowning rate. We can go down so many different things. And so I would love any way to help, you know, and do something together and create some type of, you know, anything that we can figure it out. I don't know. We're going to talk.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. And you know, this is so beautiful to hear because this is a testament to the importance of participating in arts institutions, showing up at arts institutions, and really committing to doing the work in an arts institution. So I really want to thank you all for just showing up, being honest, and making a commitment to continue this work. So now, I think it would be a good time to shift into some audience questions, if we will.
Please raise your hand and we'll bring you a mic if you have a question. Thank you.
There's a question in the front, Anita.
Sorry, I was about to say, don't be shy.
Hi, excellent, excellent. This didn't come up, but I would love to hear you talk a little bit about it. As we know, at least for women, the hair has always been this barrier for the water and swimming and stuff. And so I would love to hear a little bit more. I see you have your braids. You mentioned that they were still wet, so that meant you didn't cover up your hair per se.
Well, sometimes the swimming caps don't work for us. And hair has delayed my process, to be honest with you. Because certain times and certain styles, it is very difficult to maintain our hair, black hair, in water.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, if I wear my natural, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm gonna be a puffball in the morning. So it's one of those where hair can be a deterrent for many women who is learning how to swim. It was for me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I just switched. This is a priority for me. So I made it my business to wear protective styles or it wouldn't affect my ability to learn.
There's some great new swim caps on the market now too. Soul Cap is one. They're bigger, they'll fit the locks and the braids. So, you know, we've come a long way as far as, you know, what's out there. And then I embrace the puff, so just go with it sometimes.
I embrace the puff as well, and often, but I do have like 3 different sizes of the soul caps depending on how much fake hair I put on.
Listen, don't get me started on hair. I love to talk about art and hair.
Okay.
It's favorite subjects. There's a question up there.
Yeah, David.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. This film was beautiful. Calida, your art is amazing. And this panel was fire, so thank you. When I think about water, I think about change. And in this moment, Miami is experiencing so much change. And I guess it's a 2-part question. First, when we think about the history of Overtown and how it was an economically and culturally vibrant and thriving community prior to the freeways, the interstate freeways, displacing 40,000 people, right? How many people that you interacted with when you were developing the current work knew about that history of Overtown being that economically and culturally vibrant place? That's the first question. The second question is, how many people in Miami do you think who are moving here or people who are from here are finding out something new through this work and the power of this work, educating people about this history? And what's the impact of that?
I don't know how many people know, but I am surprised that when I share it with a lot of people, they were unaware, you know? And I do think it's a great opportunity to bring awareness for Floridians or Miami residents and the country. Because what happened in Overtown happened throughout the entire country. You know, I mean, every major city, when I did the research, the highway was put in these areas. You can go from state by state in every major city. So this is something that is a national issue. And even Biden, well, I saw this, it was kind of interesting. I saw that DeSantis had criticized Biden's infrastructure bill that he was proposing because he thought it was ridiculous that Biden was saying he wanted to do an infrastructure bill that wasn't racist, right? And he was like, well, road can't be racist. That was DeSantis saying that. This is ridiculous to think Biden is trying, using that woke culture to discuss something like an infrastructure bill. And hey, that's exactly what the Federal Aid Highway Act did. It went into the communities and destroyed many thriving communities. And I'm glad that President Biden was aware and trying to make a bill that will rectify some of that.
Agreed. Yes.
And I don't know how many people are aware of that or know the history of that systemic racism that's happened, but that's why it's so important to know your history.
Word.
It is, and if I could just tag on to that, I'm so happy that Calida is here amplifying Florida history, because Florida protests have affected policy. Yeah. We're celebrating the 60th anniversary of the civil rights legislation. That incident with the acid pouring in the pool at the Munson Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida, affected Lyndon Johnson signing the civil rights legislation. There's an audio recording of him referencing that incident, talking to his chief of staff. So Florida history is American history. Yeah. And we need, storytellers and artists and activists. We all need to be participating in getting our story out there to the masses.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. This was such a great talk. There was another recent documentary called Wade in the Water, and it's about black surfers. And I was wondering, it brought to mind, and you're in Los Angeles, which has a great surfing culture and unfortunate history of discrimination in access to the surfing waves and those areas. Have you depicted surfing, or do you ever consider depicting surfing in your paintings?
Good question.
That's a good question.
I have tried to surf a few times. I got to do it more. I'm not good at it, but living in California made me want to, and I definitely want to keep taking some lessons. I would love to, and probably one day I will. I've been, I know there's a black surf organization, so I've looked that far into it, but, I haven't done further than that, but I'll keep it in mind.
I would like to see it, Calida.
Hi, beautiful work. I wanted to know the role of water towards the spirituality of things. I know that you mentioned a little bit of joy, but for yourself and through the depiction of water, and if any of that goes to the African Orishas, or what do you envision as to the spirituality?
This is for me. Do you want to, you can go first.
I can start.
Okay.
So I meet with a group. We call ourselves a community of practice, and we meet at the historically black beach in Broward County on Sunday mornings, and we start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the ancestors for fighting for access to that beach, and to our indigenous ancestors who were on that land long before any of us. And then we engage in some sort of mindful, science-based practice like yoga, qigong, tai chi, and then we end it by wading in the water. And that's just part of my health and wellness spiritual practice, with a large community from all over South Florida that joins us at that beach.
Yeah, I think many people see it as a space of cleansing. A lot of folks go to the beaches that I know from Overtown to cleanse, to refresh, to reset, to spend time in a space with whichever God they may serve or represent, to be able to be at one and be at peace in the serenity. It's something about the power of water, because water is my sacred place. After a long day, I'll go drive by the bay and just sit and listen in silence. That is the most spiritually connected place that I have here in the city of Miami, being able to be in that space. So I think a lot of folks use it as a space of that.
For sure. For me, it's like when I see the light pop off the water, if that doesn't look so godly, you know, and that's like, I love to swim at high noon, which is the worst time you're supposed to swim, because I want to see the light hit the water, because I feel like I see something, you know, I feel something. And just a moment of pause. When you go underwater, you can't hear, you know, like the sounds go away and you're just in your thought, and the rhythm is and it's all about the breathing. So it's very much a connection, like how yoga, you breathe in and out and getting your rhythm. It definitely puts you in a trance where you feel very at peace. And man, I miss swimming. I haven't been swimming, y'all. About to go do it. But yes.
I think that shows in your work, that feeling, that connection you have to water. I can see it on the canvas.
Beautiful work. So happy to be here. So proud of you. So I have two questions. One's easy, one's not that easy.
Okay.
Tonight's the first presidential debate, and we're here. You are my Biden-Trump conversation. In your previous work, you have always shared a political message. What is the story from this work? That's the hard one. What's your story? What's your message? If you were in Atlanta on the stage, what would you want them to know, the world to know? My easy one is, why just her hands? Why just her hands? The woman who's transitioning tonight, we certainly acknowledge her life, but why just her hands?
I'll start with that one. There were a lot of images. I mean, like I said, with all of my shoots, there were so many images, but with that piece, The Parts That Make You Whole is the title. I wanted to show time. I thought of an hourglass, the sand, the water is so sandy. If you look at it's a diptych, the two canvases, the one on top, the water is to her toes, and the one on the bottom, the water's to her mid-thigh. So there's a moment of time passing. But if you look at the piece quickly, you may think they're a mirror. But that's how time works. It goes so fast, you can't even see it. You don't notice a little bit that it's passing by. And there's also time in her hands. You can see these are older hands. And I just think of like my grandmother's hands. When I saw her hands, I thought of seeing the veins and the popping and just how beautiful that can be. And just what age does to your hand. I look at my hands all the time, like, oh, wow. I'm getting older. But there's a beauty to that. There is beauty there. And I saw that with all of the amazing photos I had in this role, I could see time and in both ways, in places. And so that's why and how that piece got created. Your first question of what's the message that I'd want people to get from this show, a total message, that we are resilient people, that learning your history, even if it can be difficult, is beautiful and necessary, that that way we won't repeat it. And also I don't know, like, I don't know, I love us. That's what I say.
No, that's right.
Hello, ladies. I have a
Hey.
question for you. When you think about water and Black people, do you relate it or connect it at all to, and just the fear and the resistance of water? Do you connect it to anything to slavery and the DNA of trauma in our people, of being transferred through water and the trauma of that and being drowned? And maybe that we hold that inside and we pass that DNA as well to future generations, and that has been a component as well of our fear or apprehension of water?
Absolutely. Epigenetics, trauma is passed on in our DNA. And my partner is here in the audience tonight, and he's a ocean rescue guard, and he also teaches swim lessons. And he deals with a lot of people who have that deep trauma and fear, even the children. And, you know, where else does it come from? If it doesn't come from the DNA, it's passed on generationally. But, you know, the beautiful thing is that there are a lot of professionals who have figured out a way to help people get past that so that they can overcome those fears and traumas and learn how to swim.
I think that fear also comes from, in a lot of communities, and I know in Overtown, it was just said that just throw the child in the water. How many of you have heard that? Just throw them in the water. And that doesn't work. Doesn't work. But it's so many individuals have had that or experienced that, now they are traumatized. And they won't step foot near water. So it's one of those things for me in educating young people and individuals, when you're by a body of water, when someone has a level of fear, do not perpetuate that by pushing someone in the water or causing more harm or fear or trauma. So we have to continue to change the narrative, continue to educate.
You brought me back to when I would be scared to walk by the pool when someone would throw me in. I'm sorry, I was having memories. Yes, definitely, I think we carry trauma, yes. And I think that's always underneath, and why using water as a part of my visual language is so interesting to me, because we have that history of Middle Passage, and that's a moment where, you know, besides ancestry DNA, which is making me really excited to find what countries I might have been, you know, where I was, you know, besides that, a lot of African Americans, you know, our relationship begins there. Like, we're all connected from that moment of coming through the water. And I don't know, it was very obviously traumatic. And I don't know, it's always there. It's always underneath the surface. If you put Black bodies in water, that's, you know, an undercurrent.
But the love of water is also there, too. We spend the first 9 months of our existence in water.
Yes, on a basic level, for sure.
Yeah, we come
Yes.
from water, and most children will seek it out.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it is. It is natural, and it is something that we're made up of water, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we'll, you know, get more people interested and find the love of it like we have. Yeah.
Between y'all. Yes.
We're going to take one last question. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for this amazing piece of work. Ironically, I work offshore on an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. And just to piggyback off what the lady said before, it's like when I look out over the ocean, you really see God's grace and you see God's beauty. But it is traumatic for me because I look at from the transatlantic slave trade, and I'm thinking that it's 150 million of my ancestors at the bottom of this ocean. So that part was traumatic for me, and it's always like I never go outside when I'm at work. I'll look and I'll go back in. But this piece of work here, it just gave me a different lens on everything. So my question is, like, how do we navigate this? How do we get this out to the masses for those of us that have this trauma, that we don't really want to, look at the ocean from that viewpoint? Like will this be in theaters or social media, Netflix? Like, because it will help people like me. I do this for a living, but I just never really cared about looking out into the ocean because of that trauma.
I don't know.
So I'm still touring with the film and speaking to community groups, and probably at the end of the year it will be available on streaming sites. And you can contact me. We can set up a screening, share links. And I work with an organization called Diversity in Aquatics, and their whole mission is to connect people to the water, and in many ways, for safety, for joy, for work. I mean, you can't be a firefighter unless you know how to swim. So.
That's great.
Oh, that was a great question. And on that note, I think I really want us to acknowledge this as we close out. This doesn't happen often. I feel so thankful and so grateful to be present and a part of this. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to lead this conversation and agreeing to participate in this conversation. And I want to thank you all for being here.